Hello Keyforgers, we're on to episode 4 of series 3, which means mass mutations. So we are hoping for a gigantic creature or a sin deck. These boxes open slightly differently because they have the tabs on. So the right way up, it is Logos, Star Alliance and Untamed. It's not a yellow Archon, it's orange. We have a chance for 2 gigantic creatures. Rayahawk, the Changeling of the Fjord. Or the Fjord. Very insect-like Archon there. Maybe a bit of mechanical at the bottom with those legs. Let's get into it. Nice close-up for you there. Bottom card coming out, turning over. Starting out with Untamed. And a very nicely enhanced card to start with. Ritual of the Hunt, which is an artifact. You get an amber when you play it. It's got a capture and a draw enhancement on there as well. Omni ability. Destroy Ritual of the Hunt. For the remainder of the turn, you may use friendly untamed creatures. Trimble, 3 power with a draw enhancement. Each mutant creature gains skirmish. Lumilu, 4 power. Reap, gain 1 amber for each other friendly beast creature. Growth Surge is an action. You get an amber when you play it, and it's got an additional enhanced amber pip. Play, give a flank creature 3+1 power counters. Give its neighbour 2+1 power counters. Give the second creature's other neighbour a +1 power counter. Fangtooth Cavern is an artifact. You get an amber when you play it, and it's got a draw enhancement. At the end of your turn, destroy the least powerful creature. A second Fangtooth Cavern. Song of the Wild is an action. Play. For the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature gains Reap, gain 1 amber. Rapid Evolution is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. Choose a creature. Give it a +1 power counter for each amber you have. A second Rapid Evolution. This one has a damage enhancement. Niffle 3 power. While Niffle Ape is attacking, ignore Taunt and Elusive. Ghost Hawk, 2 power and deploy. Play, you may reap with each neighbouring creature 1 at a time. A second Ghost Hawk. Moving on to Star Alliance, we're starting out with Universal Translator. It's an upgrade, you get an amber when you play it. This creature gains Fight, Reap, use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. Mutagenis Researcher, 3 power with a draw enhancement. It's also put 1 of each enhancement in our deck. Hayden Oswin, 2 power. Reap, gain 1 amber for each upgrade on Hayden Oswin. Subject Kirby, 2 power. Play Fight Reap. You may play a non-Star Alliance creature this turn. Security Droid, 4 power with Taunt. May be played as an upgrade instead of a creature. With the text, this creature gains Taunt. Scout Pete, 4 power. Play Fight Reap. Look at the top card of your deck. You may discard that card. A second Scout Pete. Hadron Collision is an action. Play, remove a ward from a creature and deal 3 damage to it. This damage cannot be prevented by armor. Explo Rover, 3 power with skirmish, and it's got a draw enhancement. May be played as an upgrade instead of a creature. With the text, this creature gains skirmish. Crewman Jorg, 3 power. It put a capture enhancement in the deck. Action, if Crewman Jorg has no Star Alliance neighbours, steal 1 amber. Blast Shielding is an upgrade. You get an amber when you play it. This creature gets +2 armor. After this creature is used, its controller may attach Blast Shielding to one of this creature's neighbours. Access Denied is an upgrade. You get an amber when you play it. This creature cannot reap. And finally on to Logos. We're starting out with the Archivist, 3 power, and it's got a draw enhancement. If you archive the Archivist, archive it face up. While the Archivist is in your archives, instead of picking up all of your archives, you may choose to pick up any number of cards in your archives. Prescriptive Grammar Bot, 3 power with Taunt and Hazardous 3. It has a capture enhancement. Reap, enrage a creature. Novu Dynamo, 8 power, 2 armor. At the start of your turn, you may discard a Logos card from your hand or archives. If you do, gain 1 amber. Otherwise, destroy Novu Dynamo. Neurosiphon is an action. You get an amber when you play it. Play. If your opponent has more amber than you, steal 1 and draw a card. Chronos, 3 power. It put 2 draw enhancements in the deck. After you resolve a draw bonus icon, you may archive a card. Quixo the Adventurer, 3 power with Skirmish, fight, draw a card. A second Quixo the Adventurer. Lethalogica is an action, you get an amp when you play it, and this one has a draw enhancement. Play, discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a Logos card or run out of cards. If you discarded a Logos card this way, put it into your hand. Lethalogica again. A third Lethalogica. Infomorph, 4 power, and it put 2 draw enhancements in the deck. And a second Infomorph. That is a highly enhanced deck. I think there's got to be at least about 12 to 15 enhancements in there. Let's have a closer look. Getting straight into it, 14 printed amber, 9 actions, 21 creatures, 3 artifacts and 3 upgrades, and there were 6 mutants in this deck. Looking at enhancements, we had 1 amber, 2 capture, 1 damage and 7 draw enhancements. That's huge and adds so much to the efficiency of this deck. But if we start with amber control, and it won't take long, believe me, we have the Neurosiphon in Logos. If your opponent has more amber than you, steal 1 and draw a card. That's a big if. And you get an amber for playing it. So even if you're 1 behind, it puts your level pegging. And then you don't have more amber than your opponent, so you don't steal 1 and you don't draw a card. So very situational. We had the Mutagenis Researcher again, which put in that capture enhancement. And the Crewman Jorg, which put in the other capture enhancement, and it has an action of, if Crewman Jorg has no Star Alliance neighbours, steal 1 amber. So it needs to be either between Logos or Untamed, or a combination of those two to be able to activate that. So again, not guaranteed. And then one of the upgrades, access denied. This creature cannot reap. You might slow your opponent down slightly. If you can get it on a creature with a good reap ability, even better. But controlling this deck, no, not going to happen. So we're going to need to rush the opponent down. And how do we do that? Expected amber. Song of the Wild is usually one of those cards where you think, well, it's okay, it's not great. Play for the remainder of the turn. Each friendly creature gains reap, gain 1. So you're reaping, gaining 2. But when you have 2 Ghost Hawks in the deck, that's not too bad. Because on the Untamed turn, you might be able to reap with 4 creatures that aren't in Untamed because of the deployability of Ghost Hawk and the play effect of you may reap with each neighbouring creature 1 at a time. If you can get these 3 in your hand, play the Song of the Wild, play the 2 Ghost Hawks, that's 8 amber straight away. That's a huge, huge ramp. We had the Ritual of the Hunt, the Artifact, Amber Pip, Capture Enhancement and a Draw Enhancement with the Omni ability of Destroy, and for the remainder of the turn you may use friendly Untamed creatures. And then we had Lumilu, 4 power, Reap ability of gain 1 for each other friendly beast creature. Now in this deck there are only 3 other beasts. Lumilu is the 4th beast, but they don't count unfortunately, so there is a possibility to gain a little bit of additional amber through reaping there. In Logos we had the Novu Dynamo, 8 power, 2 armor, and at the start of your turn you may discard a Logos card from your hand or archives. If you do, gain 1 amber, otherwise you have to destroy Novu Dynamo. With a draw and efficiency in this deck, it's quite possible we could pull it off for quite a few turns. And then the only other amber generation in the deck was around Star Alliance Hayden Oswin, 2 power, Reap ability of gain 1 for each upgrade on Hayden Oswin. We had the Universal Translator, which would work to increase that reap gain there, but also we had the Blast Shielding, and we could put the Explo Rover, and you may want to put the Secure Droid on there, but it does give them taunt. The Universal Translator again would mean you could use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature, so there is an out of turn house cheat as well. So you could potentially get 4, 5, maybe 3 amber from reaping with Hayden Oswin. Obviously you don't want to put the access denied on Hayden Oswin, but a few ways there to ramp up your amber generation. No artifact control unfortunately. We do have some creature control. Well, I say some, we have creature control. It's not the best. We have the Hadron Collision. Remove a ward from a creature and deal 3 damage to it. This damage cannot be prevented by armor. And then we have the 2 Fangtooth Callan. Now, you've got 14 printed amber in this deck. That includes the bonus amber pip. You've got a lot of draw. So actually, drawing into those Amber Pips is going to be quite quick. You could put both Fangtooth Caverns down on the board just to ensure your opponent cannot have a board if you don't play any creatures and just discard your creatures, or if you don't mind losing your creatures. We do have quite a few low power creatures like the Hayden Oswin. We've got a Subject Kirby, 2 power, 3 power, 4 power. If you're playing against Saurians or Sanctum, you're going to lose that Fangtooth Cavern battle. So sometimes it might be better just to go for the speed, the efficiency, and the draw. And if we get into that, there's a lot. The majority is in logos, but if we start out with Star Alliance, we have that Subject Kirby. Play, fight, reap. You may play a non-Star Alliance creature this turn. Speed. House cheating out a creature. The 2 Scout Petes. Play, fight, reap. Look at the top card of your deck. You may discard that card. You don't want it. You don't think it's going to be any good next turn. Discard it. Draw into something that you will need. And then we get into logos. We had 3 Lethalogica. Each one with an Amber Pip, and one of them has a Draw Pip. Discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a Logos card or run out of cards. If you discard a Logos card this way, put it into your hand. If you finish your deck, you won't be able to play any more Lethalogicas unless something is forcing you to draw a card, which would mean you'll be able to reshuffle. And you could do that with the 2 Quixo the Adventurers, Skirmish, Fight, draw a card. We had the Archivist. Now there is some archiving in this deck. The Archivist got a Draw Pip, but when you archive the Archivist, you archive it face up, and then you can pick and choose which cards you want to take from your archives at the beginning of each turn. It's not really an archive heavy deck, but we do have 7 draw enhancements and a Chronos. After you resolve a draw bonus icon, you may archive a card. So this is where, if we can keep Chronos on the board and keep cycling with those Lethalogicals and getting those draw enhancements out, we would be able to have our Archivist and pick and choose and speed up. And this is how we're going to win this game, because we cannot win through control. We have no way of increasing our opponent's key cost. We do have those 2 Fangtooth Caverns, and if our opponent doesn't have artifact control and relies on a creature heavy board, we could struggle if we want the Chronos out to activate those draw pips. But this deck does have lots of little nifty things it can do, especially with the Amber Generation and those archives there. There were some cards that didn't really fit in, but there was also some cards that would actually help towards beefing our creatures up, so maybe we don't lose to that Fangtooth Cavern. We had 2 Rapid Evolution. Choose a creature, give it a +1 power counter for each Amber you have. If we're ramping and we have a significant amount, 4 or 5, that takes it out of reach of that Fangtooth Cavern. We have the Growth Surge, enhanced with an additional Amber Pip, so 2 Amber Pips here. Play, give a flank creature 3 +1 power counters, then 2 to its neighbour and 1 to its other neighbour. So actually trying to buff our creatures out of range of that Fangtooth Cavern if our opponent is trying to keep a board is an option as well. There were a few cards that didn't really fit in. There weren't that many. Most of them either had really good enhancements or they contributed towards the enhancements, like the Infomorph, which put 4 of those draw pips in our deck. We had the Prescriptive Grammar Bot, Taunt Hazardous 3, Reap Enrage a creature. That could be your creature or your opponent's creature. So it might be a way of slowing down your opponent's Amber Generation. And then in Untamed, we had the Niflate, which was one of the other beasts, along with the Ghost Hawk, and then we had the Trimble. With that draw enhancement, 3 power with a passive ability of each mutant creature gains Skirmish. If you are facing an opponent who is not using a Mass Mutation deck, this you may want to play. We have 6 mutants in the deck, giving them Skirmish would mean they'd be more effective fighting. But if your opponent is playing Mass Mutation, probably just a straight discard, or play it if you know it's going to be taken out by the Fangtooth Cavern at the end of your turn. Overall, some very nice combos in the deck, I would say. I love that Song of the Wild with the 2 Ghost Hawks. If you can get them in your archives and you can get them going, that would be a really big turn. Fangtooth Cavern is going to be a judge of if you need to play them or not. But I feel that the majority of decks you'll play against will out-ramp you in Amber, because your control is non-existent almost. It's going to be a fast deck, really fast deck. Probably quite a lot of fun to play. And I would expect some close games with the amount you could probably generate quite quickly. There's a lot of synergy in the deck with those cards. I'm quite excited to take it to the table. I'll leave a link to the Master Vault in the description if you want to take it for a spin. But all that remains for me to say is good luck, have fun, keep forging.